All right. So, hello, everyone. Good evening. We are so excited to join you all again tonight. This is our live Q&A with Lowell Johnson. And as a special treat, we also have another guest that Lowell has referenced in his several videos that we did with him. And this is Dave, who also has had some experiences. And hopefully, if we're lucky enough, he'll share some information with us about that this evening. But we thought this would be a really great way to round out all of the interviews we did with Lowell. So, for anyone watching who hasn't watched any of Lowell's videos, there were 3 interviews that we did with him. Those are all listed on the Ethereal Edge YouTube channel and the website. And you can go and take a look at those 1, 2, and 3. They're all different specific experiences that Lowell had. One when he was in Mount Shasta and he was invited into Inner Earth, which is the infamous mystical city of Telos that we all have heard about and we love. And then his second interview that we did with him was when he went back to Mount Shasta and he had some experiences with light beings and also showed us some very ancient artifacts, which was amazing. And then the third interview we did was more of just a chit chat session. We talked a little bit about his experiences in Sedona as well. But we just thought this would be a really nice way to kind of round out the series and allow people who are interested to join us and ask questions. And so we sent out the Zoom link for anyone interested. If you're watching this live, there is a Zoom link in all of Lowell's videos, the prior videos we did. I included that Zoom link as a pinned comment. So you can go there, click on that link, and you can join us live here if you have any questions that you'd like to ask Lowell directly. So Lowell, I know that you were one of the most popular videos that we've had on our channel, and you garnered a lot of attention from those videos. So I just wanted to hand the baton over to you and give you the floor to speak for a little bit here, and then maybe we can kind of start the ball rolling with anybody who might have questions who's joining us already. And then we can just have a little nice chit chat and we can
Yeah.
get to know Dave a little bit as well. So I think that would
Well,
be really great.
perfect. I know Sandora's got questions, and I know Terry showed up because he's got some questions. But um, I really wanted to go back to it, and I'm so glad Dave's here because when we decided that we were going to kind of come together and do these exchanges, that it was Dave and I that when we made the decision, decided that we would do them together, and things have just blossomed from there. So people that might not have known about Dave for whatever reason, we've been doing this for a few years now, and there's history. So where we end up today, and what I really want to focus on, is experiencers. All these people that showed up that want to ask us questions were also experiencers too, and those are the people that were drawn to us. That's what drew me to Dave. That's what drew Dave to I. And things through our journeys have just matured in a way that all those telekinetic powers that we hear about, Dave and I have been sharing those for months now. I don't have to really, he knows when I need to touch him, and he calls just like that. There have been too many instances where that stuff works now, so that we've proven to ourselves, or it's been reinforced enough times that we know it's legit. So what we had heard about, we have begun to experience. So I'm glad we went back to this format. Here we are. Here's your opportunity to kind of share experiences you've had that are similar to ours, ask your questions, and Dave has a whole new perspective. So I'm hoping that from this, that Tara and Dave will launch into some things that they can do on their own, because Dave has a whole set of stories that he needs to tell, and I would never do them justice. People need to hear what's happened with him, so when we talk about contact, you'll understand it from a guy who has it regularly. So I'll stop there and invite the first exchange.
Very exciting. So, yes, absolutely. We would love to hear from anyone who has had any contact experience. So, if you're listening to this live, please join us through the Zoom link, and you can either share your story or ask any questions to Dave or Lowell directly. And I know we've got a couple people joining us here already. If you'd like to ask a question, you can go ahead and raise your hand. And there is a way for you to do that just at the bottom of the screen there. And then you can unmute yourself, and then we will kind of go from there. It looks like, Sandra, it looks like you might be trying to look for that raise hand button. So let me see. I'm going to actually see if I can unmute. Oh, I can ask to unmute you. So if you want to click to unmute yourself, you can go ahead and ask whatever questions you have.
Okay. Can you hear me okay? That's going to
We
be my first
can.
question. Cool.
Absolutely. Welcome.
Hi. Sandy Songjoy is my current name, actually.
Okay.
So this is, I thought I knew everything I wanted to ask before I got on here, and I was like, out the window. And I'm seriously curious what Terry has to offer as well. Um, so I got two things coming towards me, questions for Dave or Lowell, or even Tara, or sharing my experience. So I've been asking for help to decide to so as not to waste a lot of time here. Not that time is ever wasted, time is irrelevant. So maybe that's where I'll come in. Okay, I'll just come in with I never okay, I initially was introduced to inner earth things through Lily Nova, and that's where I got acquainted with Lowell. And at first that didn't resonate with me at all. I was on a different path. Even though I would say back in the 1990s, a dream showed me that that was going to be different. That's when I had a dream where I was shown the which one is it? It's one of the inner earths that's got the Blu-ray. So I was shown something in a dream, that exact symbol from that symbol that's now on somebody else's YouTube channel, showing the Blu-ray through Telos, and going to Telos to the blue diamond, the diamond where you go there to heal. And so fast forward, even past the Lily Nova and just inner connection with Lowell. That's when I went to the Journey of Truth conference, and from there I met Lowell, and there I was able to share that connection between me and Telos that I never really thought was a connection till then. A lot of things, of course, transpired to bring me to that point. So, experiencer of what kind of connection would you say? More of an soul connection. I haven't actually seen things that Lowell's have seen. Obviously, we each have our own experience coming in with that. So that was kind of a things coming together. And since then, I'm consistently drawn with that inner earth energy. Everything I listen to and see anymore seems to be coming with the idea that we have that. It seems to interweave in everything. And craft, I have not actually seen an actual craft, but I've seen a lot of cloaked craft through clouds. I see a lot of those. Recently, I've gotten involved with the Sylph, Sylph, Sylph. Yeah. Connect with them in the clouds. So um, I'll keep that brief because I have a suspicion if I hear more of you guys, I'll come up with questions for you. I'm kind of a responder. That's my shtick. So
Okay.
that's all I'll say. Thank you.
Okay. Well, how about you, Terry?
Okay, I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I moved out here to the Grand Canyon in summer of 21. Actually, I was banished by my work. So I retired out here, and nightly we have what's called the Star People, and it looks like a welder's torch, the brilliance of a welder's torch, and they jump around in the trees and in the sky all night long. So it got me to thinking, are these inner earth beings coming up from the surface, or what I got the Star People name from the mythical legends of the Native Americans out here. I tried to do as much research on the area as possible. And then the experience I sent a picture to the website of a cloud ship hanging off the edge of the South Rim about 2 or 3 days ago, the last time we had a storm moved through. And then the next day there was 4 or 5 more. And my window that I look out here, they were right above the South Rim in the forest here. I'm in the Joshua Tree National Forest. So my question basically is there an underground city like Telos here in the Grand Canyon? And I read an article about this being the actual Valley of the Kings. So if you have any information, or the Star People, I'd like to hear what you have.
Well, I'm going to
available.
I have a response, but I'm going to lend this over to Dave in a moment because he can speak more intelligently on this. I wanted to ask you a couple questions though. Before you ended up in this area, you're in near the Grand Canyon in Arizona, correct?
I'm actually in the Grand Canyon itself. I have the South Rim out one side of the house and the North Rim's out the other side. It's
And
right at
where
the
were you
entrance to
before
where you
that?
go to Skywalk. I'm
Before you
sorry.
moved there,
Where
where were you before that?
I was in Kingman, Arizona, and before that I was in Manhattan Beach, California. That's where I was raised. I moved out here 31 years ago from Manhattan Beach,
Okay.
and I've been a resident of Mojave County for 35 years now.
Okay, well, I found a common
So
thread for you and Dave. But before I do that and pass you off, had you had those kind of experiences when you're in California before you moved to Arizona? I'm trying to figure out what level of experience you'd had before you actually got there.
in Kingman, when I went to work for Pepsi in the morning, we went into the grocery stores at 3, 4 in the morning. I used to get Star People. I could see them out my car window. So they were around for the last 7 years. I didn't really ever have any experiences growing up at the beach in Manhattan Beach, but I was always lit, so to speak. I was on as a kid. So, I've been connected most of my life.
Dave, you want to follow up?
Only just to remind everybody listening that there are no coincidences. So, Terry, I grew up in Manhattan Beach. My great grandfather moved there in 1921. And
That's great.
yeah, it's a very sacred place. Come to find out, by the time I was 10, I was finding evidence of the Chumash and the Paiute Indians that lived there. And the little A-frame wood house that was built by the mayor of Pasadena back in 1920 was built on a living reservation for the Salt Marsh tribe from Redondo and for the Paiute Indians in Manhattan Beach. When I was a little boy, I would dig in my back garden and I would find native people's relics all the time. And I still have some of them.
Wow.
But the whole beach area from Malibu all the way to Long Beach is a very ancient sacred burial ground for the Chumash, the San Bernardino, and the San Gabriel tribes. And they used to come down to the beach in the wintertime and collect seaweed and shells and fish. And in the summer, there was always so many wildfires in Los Angeles that they'd move back up into the San Gabriel and San Bernardino mountains at 6,000 feet, where the air was fresh. And they always laughed at the white people who built Los Angeles down in the valley because they used to call it the Valley of the Smokes. But Manhattan Beach is an interesting place. It also happens to be the very same beach that I was taken to. They came into my home after many months of calling out to them from my balcony. They came into my home and scrubbed me down, put me into a smock, like a hospital gown. And then I don't know how they got me out of the house. They put me to sleep. But when I woke up standing upright at 28th Street in Manhattan Beach just after 12 midnight. And I had one on my left and one on my right, and they were holding my hand, giving me lots of information about etiquette and how to behave before I meet my primary contact from Taurus. So interesting that you should bring that up. There's just too many synchronicities that go on. The star people are indeed the holy people who come from the sky, the holy people who live in the sky. The Diné, the Navajo tribes there in Grand Canyon, will those are the people that they would prepare by going into meditation, by going into kivas, into sweat lodge. They would prepare themselves spiritually and to clean their bodies and to clean their minds and to focus their hearts to speak to the star people. And these are the holy people who live in the sky. The Navajo believe that there are no holy people living on the ground. Now, I can definitely say that there are a Telosian community underground in Grand Canyon, which connects to the vast aquifers of the water tables in the Great Mesas of New Mexico. They go all the way up through Arizona, all the way up to Shasta. There is a huge underground network, and the Grand Canyon is almost a porthole, a gateway for many civilizations. And I remember reading about the cowboys that discovered all of the pharaonic treasures and the statues from ancient Egypt there when the Smithsonian came down and shut the whole thing down and stole what they could. But the lights that you see in the tree, I would pass this back to Lowell. I would definitely say that those are contact spirits from inner Earth. They're not star people, but they are similar because star people do appear as lights. But the holy people that live in the sky will come down to meet you. But it takes many weeks of preparing your soul and your thoughts so that you're pure of heart and pure of thought. Because those holy people, they don't waste their time. And when they come down to benefit mankind, there's always a lesson, and we're expected to listen carefully and to be very grateful and thankful for their presence. So I would guess, Lowell, that those are contacts from inner Earth, wouldn't you?
Absolutely, without question. And Dave and I were talking the other day about kind of where we are right now in our journeys. And over the last few years, we were compelled to share what was going on, not just the contact that we had, Dave's experiences off planet, and what happened since then. Um, I know Dave had the same impulse that I did, that we were here to help everybody else kind of come to terms with the stuff that had been presented to us and that had made its way to us, and just resonated in a way that you just can't ignore anymore. So now that these things are coming into focus, my experience to begin with was with inner earth beings. When Dave came along and trained me like he's trying to train everybody else how to make communications with beyond Earth sentience, man, that started to kick into me too. So now, when we talk about contact, to me, it's all getting kind of really fuzzy because we're just acting as the in-betweens right now. But what thrills me is all of you that are showing up have been chosen. And that word, that phrase came my way this week. And in the past, I had ignored it because I just thought it was one more thing to feed your ego with. But I can't deny that every one of you that are here listening to this right now are taking in information you're supposed to take in. And your Akashic records are revealing things and restoring things to you at a rapid rate for reasons that we understand. But I'm just thrilled when I hear the rest of you, because I got mine, you get yours, is kind of my attitude and what Dave and I were talking about the other day. But for the tribe, we're solidly here for all the rest of you. We share the parts of our journeys because when we hear about yours, it gives more validation to ours. And so thank you when you share that stuff with us. We know it's real. We know it. We know it's been covered up for too long, but we're not focusing our attention on whatever went wrong or why we're not learning what we should learn, because we're being spoken to directly. We're not waiting to hear it from anybody else. We were picked to have these communications with. So that was a long answer to your question, Terry, about whether I think that that's inner earth related. I absolutely positively do. And Dave was right when he talked about that area beneath the Grand Canyon. Let me kind of correct the idea about Telos, first of all. Yes, Telos is the capital city located beneath Mount Shasta, but when Lemuria was Lemuria, Telos was a territory and covered most of Western North America. That whole section of it was a part of Lemuria. And when it broke off, now can you see why the vibrations between Sedona and Shasta seem to be familiar, and everything in between? Well, it's got Lemurian energy that just kind of radiates through it all the time, right? Yeah. So I'm going to take a break, let somebody else kind of step up.
Well, we have a handful of people watching live right now on YouTube. So for anyone watching live, if you'd like to join the conversation, I just put the link in the chat, but there's also a Zoom link under all of Lowell's videos. I put it in the community post for YouTube. It's also on Instagram, Facebook as well. So we would love for you to join us, and you can ask some questions directly. We did have a question just come in on the chat. They would like to know, what do you think about the Bigfoot people? They believe they're very old people and very spiritual. So for anyone who would like to field that question.
Dave, you
Go
want to go
right ahead.
first?
Yeah, there's without a doubt, there's many different tribes of Bigfoot. They're interdimensional. Some of them are here full time by choice. They love the earth. They have an earth that they come from. There are people that communicate with them telepathically who are expected by the Yeti or the Sasquatch or the Bigfoot to come and meet with them. I've seen them several times in my life. They're fascinating, beautiful creatures, but it's not within my purview to make any kind of a educated guess at our relationship or the purpose. I believe that they're caretakers, and I know just as there are species from other worlds who do not have our best interests at heart, there are also Bigfoot who know what humankind is capable of, and they avoid us for good reason, because we do a lot of damage, a lot of polluting, a lot of shooting, a lot of terrible things. And so I know that, to know them is to respect them, understand that they're there, and to allow them to be free and enjoy the earth the way they're supposed to. And I think in that lesson, in that regard, we can learn from them. That's about all I have to say, other than I feel very, very strongly that they're another earth spirit and another earth protector and an interdimensional species that also live here full time. and that we should love them and sort of protect them by avoiding them and just let them get on with it.
I'd been in their presence twice. I'd been in ceremonies in the Shasta area with a local shaman. I guess that was what we call Mateo. His family has lived there for generations. They've had experiences with those beings. And so I had been in a ceremony and heard them question what I heard later, and then was educated on exactly what presence was there. I'm always mindful when we have these questions about um, experiences with beings that are clearly of higher intelligences, higher dimensionals. So I I always got a question, first of all, if you saw them physically here, then they've dropped their vibration to be seen here, and your vibration rose to match theirs. That's the only way that this kind of metaphysical experience thing works. So it's all vibrational. When those conditions are met, you'll have those experiences. Do I think that I've seen them out of the corners of my eyes? Yes, I have. But I'm satisfied that my vibration's at a level that I experience multidimensional things now, kids. And my goal for the rest of you is to get you all to the same place so that you'll have these experiences of your own.
And my contribution to this part of the conversation is coming from my favorite channeler, which everyone knows is Daryl Anka, who channels Bashar. And what he says on this topic is that the hominids that were on this planet originally, if they were left to evolve on their own without any tinkering with their DNA, they would become the Sasquatch people. And that we are a derivative of that hominid. And because we received the DNA from the Anunnaki, that is what created Homo sapien, which is what we became. So in some degree, we actually are cousins of the Sasquatch people, because if we were not tinkered with our DNA, that's what we would have turned out to be. So I think that's a fascinating insight as well. Dave, you look like you want to say something.
No, you're doing great, and the idea behind this is it's almost like everybody's gone to a big meeting, and everyone has the opportunity to ask questions, and I really think we should get some more questions.
Yeah, Sandy's
you guys.
Yep. Oh, you have to unmute. There you go, Sandy.
Thank you. As always, you guys will share and it'll trigger. So what keeps coming through, this is kind of a question and an observation both. It could be taken either way. Because lately, I've been experiencing a lot of different energies in the last 4 years or so, besides all the ones I've been dealing with through the years. There is, I've had connection to Sasquatch down St. Louis. I have constant connection to elementals here, as well as some visitors from other regions, and also dream space connection with other beings, because that's my shtick. So where am I going with this? Well, I get this sense that as we share about the different, the Sasquatch, the star people, the different beings that are connected with us multidimensionally, as well as to some degree sharing this planet, that we are so Lemuria and Atlantis are truly huge things we're exploring right now. All way shores like yourselves, all people in the background like myself, are all either experiencing things or learning more about these things, and realizing that those, well, I've just come to the conclusion, of course they all existed, and of course they were planet wide, not just in one little place here and one little place there. But as we go through as the planet raises her vibration and we raise our vibration, we become more aware of where those places are. So I'm just wondering if any of the 3, 4 of you, however many want to share, if you're experiencing this congealing of all this information and having it rising to the surface, and like Lowell said, the Sasquatch lower their vibration, we raise our vibration, and we become more aware. So I'm finding that for myself, I'm just going to end on this. The direction I'm being shown is to explore, all across the United States. There's all kinds of things going on, but I think right in my backyard there is. I have as yet to know how or how or what I'm going to do with that. But I live not far from the Mississippi River. I've lived along the Mississippi River all my life. And there's a whole lot of stuff about this section of the Mississippi that hasn't really been explored. And I would love to have some people who can see more than I can see come here and check it out. I'm going to explore more how to do that with myself. And I actually have a daughter that might help me with that because she has really strong clairs. So anyway, that's where I'm going to go with that. If you can jump off on that, that'd be cool. I'd like to hear more of your perspective.
Well, you're away shore of some type too. And I want to point that out. When your vibration gets to this point, look, I am thoroughly convinced that we don't go to zones that are energetically charged and we find these things there. We are the things that vibrate, that attract those energies no matter where we are. So, Sandra, in your case, you're sensitive to those energies. And maybe you're going to be the one in your neighborhood that's drawn that energy, had your communication, and you're going to be able to start to tell us about the energetic places that you have right there. They're not showing up because you happen to live in an energetic area. You drew that energetic energy to you, and now you're starting to tell us what you're experiencing.
Yeah.
It took me a while to have these experiences in different places, only to look up at the sky and say, wait a second, I'm looking at the same freaking sky all the time. Planets are all in the same place. So, no, Lowell, when you had these experiences, Dave, when you had your experiences, you had them because it was about you. And they happened where you happened to be. So I can't underscore that enough. People are beginning to have these experiences not because they're in the right place, it's because they're at the right vibration. End of line.
Well,
Great.
what can
Well-
a person say to that? I do my best to be the being that needs to be in this moment, but I am also multidimensional, so I know I can connect with all of you too. So yeah, it's quite the ride, and it's quite fun and sometimes really aggravating because of the stuff that tries to play with this. But I guess I've been dealing with those all my life. Hey, what the heck, I'll just deal. As I say, Sandy Song Joy, and I'm here to heal and raise the vibration.
I love that. You're in the right place, Sandy. We've got
Thanks
some
to
more
all of you.
questions coming in the chat over here from the live. So here's one for the group. Are the star people what we may have called elemental devas, those who created the etheric templates for all beings?
I'm not sure that I have an end-all be-all question for that. When Sandy mentioned the elementals, and I'm glad she did, because that's what energetically, that's what I seem to be drawn to. It's not that the tribe doesn't show up, but I'm more drawn to the things that are in nature waiting for us. And when I get there, they all seem to show up. I sense that they're coming into our awareness in greater doses right now because of that. And I don't know if they're the same as the star people. All I can tell you is we need to get ready for a lot of beings that we're unfamiliar with. It's going to be a little unsettling at first, as Dave can tell you about his exploits with where he did. Visitors that he's had since then, they don't all look the same. And he hasn't seen them before, so you're going to have to get used to them. And I'm convinced that there are going to be some benevolent beings that are here already dimensionally that we're going to have to get used to seeing because we haven't seen them before. If we believe that there are other civilizations waiting for us in other parts of the planet, in other dimensions, a lot of that is going to be forms that we're totally unfamiliar with. And what poor humanity is going to have to deal with first is their fight or flight. That's our impulse, our 3D impulse to be scared of something we're unfamiliar with is going to kick in first, and rightly so. But the quicker you can arrest that and get on to the extraordinary things you want to experience, it's going to be unsettling the first time it does. But I promise you, you will have extraordinary experiences.
Yeah. And actually, we have a question that kind of ties in with all of that. What are your experiences with the ant people and any positive reptilian beings?
I haven't had any, so I can't speak to that. I know others have, but what I tend to hear isn't favorable. So I'm not in a position to answer that in any way. How about you, Dave?
You're pretty brave for throwing that into my court. The reptilians, reptilians. Okay, so look, guys, I'm on a program that started in January of 2017 after they came down and got me. I've been working with the people from Taurus daily, weekly, and monthly visits and information and guidance. I kind of want to go back to the first question a little bit and then touch on reptilians. I wouldn't worry about ant people. We see a lot of pictographs and artwork on stones scratched into the rock by ancient peoples of the ant people. I believe that the ant people once lived very successfully on the planet, but I think their time has come and gone. And if we can go back to that other question briefly, I did have just a short remark to make, especially regarding Atlantis. When you're starting to think about things like etheric information and different races that want us to find that information, what we have to remember is that lessons from the past can be very poignant. We can find lessons in the past from mass graves. We can find lessons in the past from meteorite impacts. And we can find lessons from the past that exist within us today in our behavior and the way that we think. And then when we refer to species or to civilizations that have come and gone, we have to remember to only look at the best aspects, which leads into the second question. We must look at the best aspects. Not everything that Atlantis produced was good. One of the reasons that the Emerald Tablets from Thoth's teachings were hidden, one of the reasons that a lot of Atlantean technology was kept from us is because a lot of the Atlanteans destroyed themselves with their own advancements. We're not far from that now. We're doing many similar things, almost mimicking, but in a lesser way, because they were far in advance of ESP and far in advance of telekinesis, and they could change things, almost change time with the power of their thoughts. And the people that I work with are always reminding me to tell people within different groups within the community of wanting to find more answers, what they guide me to tell you folks is that most of the answers about everything that's occurring are already embedded in your genetics. And your third eye has the ability to cast a light upon your chromosomal chain and release that information so that you know, so that one morning you wake up and you know. There are no questions. There's no amazement. It's a part of who you are. It becomes part of who you are on a daily basis. And I think that when we look at Atlantis and the etheric records and the Akashic records, we have to remember that the ones that are around today come to us from source. They come to us from the spirit realm. They come to us from their ancient form of energy, and they reach out and they're trying to be helpful. And let's flip this forward and talk about reptilians for a moment. There are good reptilians. Unfortunately, there aren't very many. And there are ones that have pacified themselves. Reptilians lived at 300 or 400 years old. They don't live 1,000 years. They're a form of bioentity. They're reptiles. They're humanoid reptiles. When they're young, which can be described up to the age of 200 years, when they're young, they're fascinated by wealth, material possessions, and power. Power over others is like a game of Native American coup. They'll go and steal your horses, and then a week later you sneak into their camp and steal your horses back, plus take a few extra horses. It's a game that they play. To them, it's not malevolent. But to us, because of our physicality and our nature of fear and flight, we find reptilians to be very horrific. Well, in all truth, folks, they're just being themselves. Now, a lot of the evil regimes of reptilians have already been removed. The groups that are working for the awakening of humanity have already come down and have started this program 200 years ago. Remember that many of the species who are indebted to the ancient laws, the universal laws to care for humankind, some of them don't know about the things that we've been through. And when they found out what the Anunnaki had done to us, when they found out what the reptilians had done to us by getting into us, they were shocked, and they made a very strong effort to come down and release us from these forms. You see, we haven't evolved yet cerebrally and emotionally. We haven't evolved yet to be able to withstand these attacks on our own. This is why there's so many visitations. There's an obligation to help humanity join the Galactic Federation, the Galactic family, and they want us to think just the same way they do. Now, when you think about reptilians, just let it go, because every time we think about a species that isn't necessarily helpful, then we give something of ourselves to that idea. We give some of our mental energy to it, and thus empowering them in some small way on some level, whether that's interdimensionally or vibrationally. It doesn't really matter. I don't have much to say as far as being an authority on reptilians. I know they exist. I know that they've caused more problems, and that I've had experience once, and it was a very old one. He was a male. He had a pearlescent white woven coat with gemstones and gold embroidery, and he was absolutely fabulous looking. It looked like the Merlin version of a dinosaur. He was just fascinating. And he looked at me and he said, not all of us are bad. And from that, I went back to my people. I went to Kim Jim, and I went to the Galactic Council of Scientists that reside in Taurus and that reside behind Orion. And I asked him, and he said, oh, yes, well, when they get old, they get tired. They get tired of the fighting. They get tired of the jewelry collecting and the gold collecting. And they give in to themselves, and they retire, and they sit in their material wealth, and they ponder their behavior. And he says that's just the nature of that species, and they're not welcome on Earth, and they know that. There's so few reptilians left anymore that a lot of them are in the movie industry. A lot of them are in the music industry, because that's where they find that they can take advantage of people. People who are on drugs, people who are alcoholics are easy prey. And if you're a strong-willed person and you have a solid heart full of love, and you keep your mind full of hope and compassion and forgiveness, reptilians won't even be able to get near you. And that's what I know. But no, they're not all bad, but I wouldn't even give them the time of day by thinking about them, because you only add to their collective. Just ignore them. They're almost all gone.
Don't feed that energy.
If
Right.
I can add my 2 cents on that topic. So Barbara
Please.
Lamb, I'm sure many of you all know who Barbara Lamb is. So she's amazing, and I've done several interviews with her. She's a world-renowned hypnotist. She was doing hypnosis back when it wasn't popular, and she had her own personal experience with the reptilian in her home. I've had her
That's
not
right.
only share this story with me, she's actually shared it with me personally in person, one-to-one, because I've heard her talk about this on video, and I was like, I need to hear her tell me the story. And then I had her also share the story in an interview. But what she shared was basically she had a brief interaction, and that he appeared during the day in her living room. She actually put her hand into his hand, and she said it felt like a really thick, kind of like masculine hand, like the way, like a really thick, like a man who maybe works out a lot and has like a really thick, like palm. And she said she was terrified to look down because she did not want to see his feet in case there were like claws. But she said she was fascinated by his eyes because he had those cat-like eyes with like the slit in the center. And she said it was beautiful. She said it was just mesmerizing. And he came to her to share with her that they are real and that they do exist, because she said in the back of her mind, she always had this little thought of like, maybe they're not real. Like, even though I do this for a living and even though I've hypnotized people for all these years, like, maybe this is all made up. Like she said, she always had those little tiny moments, and there was just like a fleeting thought that she would have. And he showed up and said, we know you have those thoughts, and we're here to give you your own personal experience so that you know that we are real. And I mean, I got chills when she told me this story. But what I took away from that, and one other thing he shared, was they're not all bad. So I always liken it to Earth. Like if somebody came here from another planet and said, are all humans bad? You would say, no, there's a mixed bag. There's a little bit of everything here, right? There's good, there's bad, there's everything in the middle. I think it's the same out in the
Right.
cosmos. I think there's not one species that's completely benevolent, and I don't think there's one species that's completely evil. But it's also the perspective that you put on it. And I'll say one more thing about this is that, again, Bashar, Daralanka, everybody knows how much I love him. So one thing he says about the reptilians is that, and I just heard this recently, actually, I think like in the last couple of days, is that he shared that they have a little bit of resentment towards humanity because because of our DNA, we actually have an innate fear of them. It's just something part of our physiology. It's something we can't help, right? And so because of that, they get upset because of how fearful we are of them. And so they get a little resentful of that, which I mean, who wouldn't, right? Like if somebody's always scared of you and you're not that scary, it's like, okay, I get it. You know, you have to be scared of me for whatever reason. But I mean, I get that. And so you kind of have to take the good with the bad and take everything with a grain of salt. That's my 2 cents on the topic. So, Lowell, I don't know if you have
I
anything
think that's brilliant. Barbara's
No.
Sorry, Dave, you were saying?
No, I think that's brilliant. Barbara's a dear, and she's absolutely correct about what she thought. And yeah, they're beautiful to look at. I mean, the one I was looking at, he was absolutely unbelievably incredible, and they're very alluring. And I think that's part of the attraction. And in the same respect, you could say the same thing about the Hell's Angels. I mean, you don't want to go rushing up to a Hell's Angel to hang out with them, but actually, once you get to know them, some of them are okay. So it's sort of a matter of perspective as well. Yeah, I think that one of the things that we have to be careful of when we're discussing species from other worlds and talking about sources of information is that the experience altogether from whichever species is communicating with you, be it interdimensionally or through a ship, is that the experience you're going to have is understood by the person trying to bring you the experience. They're going to understand what evolutionary position you're in, what you're able to handle, where your nerves are, where your emotions are, and what your intellect is. Most of the species that reach out to human beings already have spent time with you, but that's usually that you don't know it, and they've done it interdimensionally, or while you're asleep, they'll come in and stand next to your bed in your room. And what they do is they read you, and they read what kind of person you are, and they know that you're interested in them, but not all of us are ready to see them. And so they pay attention to a lot of different aspects of ourselves that we forget about, and we sort of assume as, oh, that's just the way things are. But what's really interesting is human beings are quite complex, and we represent a species that has so much hope and so much ability to be diverse and to change for all the right things in all the right directions. And they know that too. I think that in a lot of ways we're children to them, and there's a lot of law. And one of the things that I've understood is that they all operate within a lot of laws. They don't do things the way they used to. Remember that species who are more elevated than us due to technology or due to psychic ability or whatever, um, they have morals. As they evolve further and further ahead of us, and as we evolve to catch up with them, they have a higher sense of morals and a higher sense of values. That means that it dictates how they're able to communicate with us, when and in what form. So they'll only do it to you in order to make sure that you can withstand their presence and not go bananas. And it's a really interesting process, because for some of us it takes many years, and for some of us it only takes a few months. I don't judge anybody, and I've certainly not with the experience that I've had, whoever it is, whether it's Barbara and I just love her, or Bashar, or Rob Potter, or whoever's having their experience. I'm not going to judge them, because it's unique to every individual soul on this planet. The main game here is to let you know that everything will be okay, that we are cared for, over, and that all of you are doing the right thing. Just listen to your inner voice, listen to your heart, and allow your heart and your mind to connect, so that you can work the miracle of hope and compassion and suffering on the planet. And that's truly going to be our next evolutionary leap, because when we all decide that suffering has to stop globally and we're all just here for love, then you're going to see some amazing stuff. Atlantis will rise out of the ocean again. I guarantee it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And when
The,
we hurt someone else, we hurt ourselves. And that's something that we also have to learn as a big lesson. And I think that's something we miss. And when you pass over to the other side and you go through your life review, you're going to feel the pain of what you did to someone else. And then that's when you're going to learn the lesson. So I always think about that, when I go through my daily life, I'm like, do I want to do this to that person? No, because I don't want to feel that on the other side.
right.
Karma's a
Right.
bitch.
And that's your own ability. It's your own ability to control your dharma, the activities, your spiritual and emotional activities, which get converted to karma when you go to source. And you are shown that past life record, your Akashic record, you're shown the movie of your life. And then they ask you, you're not judged. We don't go to hell for eternity. If that was the case, then what was the point of creating such an amazing soul in the first place? We are not disposable. We are angelic beings here to share love and to bring that love back to source and say, this is how we experience love. And they go, oh, well done. How would you like to go back and do it again? Or would you like to be an angel? Or would you like to join your star family? We could really use some more good, positive vibes down on old planet Earth. You want to go back? And so I believe very much that you're absolutely correct, Tara. And knowing this as deeply as you know it, it just makes us be happy, friendly people every day. When we wake up, we just go, how can I be the better part of myself 100% of the time without working at it? And just let everyone else around me feel the love and not feel any pressure. There's no pressure. Everybody gets to learn at their own pace, and remember that the universe is full of love.
Well, that's really the
Mhm.
key. We're learning lessons here. Yes.
Mhm. And wherever I go next, I want to be able to fly. That's one of my prerequisites. So we've got some more questions coming in the chat here on the live. So let's see. Someone says, basically, I feel that the architects are being more present, or are we able to perceive them better? They've been there all along, question mark. I think some of these are a follow-up on our prior questions.
I believe they've been here all along. At least I've come to conclude that now. It's our awareness had to come to our rescue so that we are in a position to be able to sense that they were here in the first place. But yes, I believe their presence has been here for a long time. And when you understand the beings that I'm thinking of, aren't on physical timelines like mine. So it's not like I met a being who was 75 years old and he'll be gone soon. No, no. These are immortal, higher dimensional beings that don't get their ages measured in the way that we do in our little carbon forms here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And again, I always go back to my Bashar. I think he said recently that there's about, I want to say he said like maybe 10 people on the planet right now that are over the age of 1,000. And then he said there's like 20 people within the age bracket. I think he said somewhere around between the age of like 200 to 500. And then there's a bunch of people that are above 100 that, but it's like there are people that are old that have lived through centuries that are still here. We just don't know that because they've kept up with the times and they don't look like that.
It
Okay.
would be difficult for people to understand the idea of what humans were like before. If you really want to just open your minds a little bit, the average human at one point was 12 to 14 feet tall and wasn't sick. So we have done this to ourselves. We have talked ourselves into disease, and that's why we've shrunk over time. We've let ourselves go, and we hear more about cancer and lots of other maladies that we brought on ourselves. Sooner or later, we'll figure out we got ourselves here. We can also get ourselves out.
Yeah, exactly. I've got another question. It looks like it says the Sasquatch who are coming outside of their comfort zone to be seen and interact. What is their desire with humanity?
Wish I could tell you. I don't know what it would be. Look, let's go back to the fundamentals here because we've talked about what when we rise into the next level here. That is where we remember the universal law of one. We are all connected. Whether you're a Sasquatch up there at that level, or whether you're reptilian, whether you're a Pleiadian, whether you're whatever you are, look, your soul goes beyond this little definition you've given to your life right here. It is more than the physical body that you currently occupy. Your soul has been here in these forms many, many times, but you are a bigger portion in the cosmic scheme of things. You are more than this. So we need to stop thinking in 3D terms, but I giggle every time I hear you freaking humans do it. We need to expand our minds beyond this, where there's a place out there where we don't have fear of the things that we don't recognize. We know that they're part of us and they're part of us. So once we can come to terms with that, there's a good foundation for you having dealt with your fears right now and the surprising, miraculous things that I'm promising you will experience along the way that might be a little unsettling the first time. You'll be better prepared for it because I promise you that contact is coming.
Well, a lot of us are waiting for that day, so hopefully soon. We've got another comment here. This is more of a comment. In our constellations in the sky, it is Draco, the dragon, that spans across a third of the heavens, and the dragon symbol is that of a reptile. So I think it's more of just a comment.
Okay.
It's a good observation. It's a good observation. Maybe that's why there were so many dinosaurs on this planet. There's reptiles everywhere in the universe. I believe that in the divine creator's infinite wisdom that there were as many millions of species deposited across the universe, And it's a beautiful thing to be able to recognize influential star systems within our own local group. So yeah, reptiles have been around for a long time. I imagine they'll be around for quite a long time.
Although I have heard that they were actually deposited into our universe, that they were not an original species for our universe, and that there was something they did that caused them to kind of be exiled, and they got dropped into our universe. So lucky us.
That's
Okay.
that's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
I think Terry had another question or a comment he wanted to make.
Oh, great. Terry, can you unmute yourself? There you go.
I did. My question is to Dave and Lowell. Either one of you, did you ever shake the hand of these non-surface beings? Like Lowell, did you shake Alex's hand
No,
or Dave?
no.
Did
I've
you
never,
touch
I
them
never.
at all?
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I've had a lot of physical contact. Yes.
What does that feel like to touch someone that's not from here?
It's beautiful. It is unbelievably beautiful. Um, Not only is their skin very delicate and smooth, but at least the ones that I've had physical contact with 7 different species within a 3-year period, all starting from my first trip in 2017. There's something that they produce. All species that are like us, that are having first contact, and I don't go for the CE5 program, folks. So whether it's 5th or 4th or 3rd, first contact to me is when they contact you. So when you're in physicality with them, Kim Jim held my hand. Kim Jim is the name of the blue man from Taurus, and he was beautiful. His skin is sort of a dark teal blue. His fingers were so long that they wrapped around my wrist twice. And he held my hand and he looked into my eyes and leaned forward. He was beautiful. When you're sitting with him and they're touching you, there's not only a beautiful wave of compassion and love, which immediately makes you calm. You see, human beings get very excited. Sometimes it's anger, sometimes it's fear, but we get very excited, and we're still at a place in our evolution which makes it difficult to control those feelings when you're in presence with someone from another world. They produce energy that comes off of them that helps you deal with that. So you're immediately put into this a beautiful feeling of being in love, being loved. It's almost like being held to your mother's chest when you're first born and she cradles you to her breast. It is that kind of really amazing love and acceptance.
Wow.
So all the fears that you have just go away and you feel like a little baby. And in fact, the first 20 minutes I spent with Kim Jim, I was just crying my eyes out. I felt like a baby. The second thing that they do is that when you make contact with them, their emotions are so highly evolved that they're not the same as ours. They have feelings and emotions, but they're more enzymatic and they're expressed by amino acids and enzymes that their brains produce. They no longer are controlled by emotional value systems. They allow their logic centers in their cerebrum, their higher cognitive regions, like the occipital lobe, they allow those regions of their brain to help them with daily decisions. They're not making decisions based on human style emotions. And they're very lucky because of it, because we make a lot of mistakes as humans because we make a lot of important decisions based on how we feel rather than how we observe a situation. So when you touch them, there's an exchange of enzymatic material. Part of your DNA goes into their skin, more like RNA, and part of theirs goes through your skin. And what happens is you exchange a very important value system of your physicality and your emotional depth to them. When they make contact physically with humans, it helps them remember who they are. and it brings them back down to things like love, which many of them have forgotten what it is. It brings them back down to adoration, things that we love when we love a baby, or we love a flower garden, or we love a little puppy or a kitty. They don't feel those things, but when they hold our hands, they can then feel them. Not only does that occur, but they take those enzymes that come from your skin and they take those back to their ship, and then the others will come up and touch them and receive the same impressions. So it's very important for them to be near humans because it helps them understand their originality and their roots. You see, in a strange way, we're all related, but we've changed because of the different positions and the different nature of the way we live in space, the different galaxies that we come from, the different planets that we come from. It changes them physically. And as they're many millions of years ahead of us, because many of these species are far more ancient than we can possibly imagine, when they see the human and they are comfortable with us and they know they've been studying you and watching you, then they finally make the decision to come down and make contact. And once they do that, it changes you forever. You never forget what it feels like to have them hold your hand. You feel like you're with your mommy and daddy. It's amazing.
Wow, sounds beautiful.
Oh, it is. It's heartbreaking and beautiful. And once it happens, you never forget it. And today I feel like the exact same way I felt when Kim Jim first held my hand, is this unbelievable love, and it never left me. It's still inside of me. And I think this is the enzymatic exchange that occurred. He put part of himself inside of me just by touching my face and by holding my hand.
Wow.
It's a
That
beautiful,
gave me
beautiful exchange.
chills when you said that about the touching.
It's a beautiful thing. And if you really want it, if you really, really want it, all you have to do is go out and look at the stars at night and ask them and tell them. Pour your heart out, cry your eyes out, and just tell them, and do it every night. Do it every night. It might take 6 months, it might take a year, but your family will come down and they will communicate with you. And if you really need it and if you really want it, they'll come down and they'll be with you. And that's just the most amazing, magical experience. It will carry you all the way through this life into the next. I guarantee it. My life was changed utterly when Kim Jim came down and told me how much he loved me. Just changed everything. And ever since then, the only thing I could think about was, how can I live my life to express the same love to everyone I meet? And that's why I'm here with all of you. That's why we're all here together, because I think in our heart of hearts, we all know that we're all the same and that there's something special around the corner. And we already have those answers, and they dwell within us, and we just must release them. And we know that everything will be okay. Everything will be fine.
And Dave, when you go out at night and you make that call to the stars, does it have to be to anyone in particular, any particular star race? Like, how should we address? Because we don't know who we're communicating with when we do this.
Many times we don't. And this is a really good question. I'm glad you asked. After Kim Jim introduced me to others, and then my contact experience accelerated over the years, there's ships that show up over my house that I don't know who they are, but they're like, oh, that's where the friendly human lives. And so when they come in my house and I hear them clinking around, they love poking through shit on the shelf. Pardon my language. They're like picking up like little statues and looking at artwork and stuff. They're absolutely fascinated with artwork and things that we've carried over, like antiques and stuff. They just have nothing like that. But I don't know who they are. Sometimes I don't understand them. But what Kim Jim did do was he introduced me to another person called Weimer. Weimer was a 9-foot tall being with very tiny little black eyes, shaped like almonds, and his skin was very beautiful, pale yellow. And Weimer gave me a mathematics communication program called CLPT, which is continuous light pulse technology. every ship that comes to visit Earth has the ability to coordinate a mathematic signal in a flash of light that carries many thousands, if not millions, of pieces of information for the human being that looks up and the light goes into your eye. That flash of light is coordinated and received by your brain, which is a 120 million year old miracle, which is already hardwired to understand this language. So it doesn't matter if you know the species or not, they all use continuous light pulse flashes and continuous light pulse technology. So while you think, oh, look, there's a flashing light, it's actually them sending you a signal. It goes down your optic nerve. It's attenuated by your occipital lobe, goes into your parietal lobe, and then it is converted by the human brain into an enzymatic signal. And those electrically charged enzymes that are then dispersed and displayed to different regions of your mind, the information stacks up over a period of time. And that ship can come back in the future and give you one more flash, and that will be the trigger flash, which releases all the information that you've been watching from ships. So it's a really fascinating way to communicate with humans. We all have the ability to absorb information from our eyes. And when they come down and blink at you, like they do it now, and I know what they're saying, I know that there's a message. And I may not understand what it is at the moment, but I know within 3 days, a week, or 2 weeks that the idea will come, and they're always helpful. So there's a lot of people, I don't know who they are, but they know that they're safe around me. This is a really important thing when they come to visit you at night, because they're about to make contact with you. And I know many of the people in your community see ships regularly. I know many of them have contact that are going on right now where they're communing psychically. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. Well, when you're ready, you tell them you're ready. They don't make that decision. When you're ready for the next upgrade, because all they're really interested in doing is allowing you to make the permanent connection between your heart and your mind, and to allow you to teach yourself that you already have all the answers, and they'll help you release. But you have to be ready. They'll come down to you. So when you go out to your garden and you ask for them to come down, they'll come down. And it's something that your heart does better than your mind, believe it or not, because they feel the energy. The beautiful heart that humans have vibrates and produces an electrical impulse, and it's channeled through your seventh chakra, just like a beam or a needle of light that goes up from the top of your head straight out into outer space. And they sense that energy, they sense that frequency, and they'll catch that light while they're flying through space, and they'll follow it down to the source. Many of us are communicated vicariously because the heart signal that we produce attracts them down to us. So my experience is that I'd say 95% of the species in outer space, the people from different planets, are beneficial, that they all know what's going on with humanity, and that they all care about us, and they all want us to stop being naughty children and to take care of Mama Earth.
I love that. I always say Mama Earth too. Sandy, I think you had your hand up. Did you have a question?
Well, he actually started to answer it there at the end. But this was, I was listening to you, David. I'm sorry, David. Yeah, I've got a nephew named, a grandson named Davey. It gets confusing. Okay. So kind of begging the question between how the heart and the brain communicate with one another. And in the, when you were sharing about the beings, how they utilize a lot of their brain and their logic centers, to use that word loosely because they're doing it multidimensionally.
Well, I have to stop you right there, because
there.
a lot of them are not multidimensional. There are many species that are corporeal, just like us. Kim Jim, and the Taurans from Taurus, and the Oranids from that region, they're people. They're people with technology. They're not from the fourth or fifth dimension. They're from this dimension, and they travel from planet to planet.
Thanks for the clarification.
Okay, no problem.
Because some of the beings I connect to, then again, I'm not really fairly certain if they're multidimensional or non. So I guess I'll look into that more as I communicate. But I always felt that and you responded and said at the end, our true engine is our heart. This is actually the control center, and the mind works in cooperation with that. And I have been utilizing that for the last however much time. Again, not so
Wonderful.
relevant.
Wonderful.
But it became more coherent in the last 4 or 5 years. So and my awareness of it has become more coherent. So as I'm communicating with the variety of beings that like to come and observe, like back in the 3 or 4 years ago when the reptilian's head popped in front of me one day, and I'm like, what? Who are you and why are you here? And then they popped out like, oh, wait a minute, she wasn't supposed to see us.
Right.
That kind of experience. And then I've had a
Sure.
number of little things going on. Obviously, my dream realm, all kinds of shit goes on. I call it the realm. It's not really your dreams. So fast forward to the earlier this year, I got a new being that came in. I wasn't sure who they were, so I asked because I have, dark crap that likes to come in and mess with me too. So I just like, not gonna stand for that. So this one comes in, and I'm not really sure who they are because they had this look about them that wasn't like nice but mean, but they weren't really a nice face. And I said, okay, who are you? And they said, we're just here to observe. I'm like going, and they weren't really going to tell me who they were. They just
Yeah,
said, we're here to
you'll
observe.
know.
And I'm like, if you can't tell me, you only get to observe. And if you do more than that, you're out.
Well, I would
I don't put up with
ban
that.
I would banish them from observation. If I could just add this,
Mhm.
Kim Jim used to say, until I understood, he would repeat to me that our souls are eternal, but we are sent to this great mother to experience love and charity and hope and kindness, to cherish everything on the Mother Earth, because there's nothing more beautiful in the universe than what we have here. And that when you understand that you'll understand immediately how to sort of defend yourself against dark forces. Because when you understand that you know who your guides are, and we all have a guide, you see, because you weren't dumped here incidentally when you were a baby soul. However many manifestations you've come through this world, I know you're very sensitive, but you weren't just dumped here. We all have a parent, we all have a guide, we all have a star family, all of us. And they're hoping that we find them as much as they already know where we are. So if you want to stop the interference from some darkness, if you want to stop the interference from some of the darkness, communicate with your great mother, communicate with your star family, and they'll guide you, and you won't have any problems. I know that when I found my family, I became 100% safe 100% of the time. Your sweet, dear soul is here for a reason. Your soul is here for a reason. All of us are. And there should be no interference in your mission. So if there's interference, communicate with your mama up in the sky. Communicate with your star family, and they'll come down and protect you and help you realign. But there should be no interference. And I address everybody on this level. I know that there's a lot of interfering entities that want to trip you up and occupy your space, but just you have to be strong, and you have to go with your inner voice and the great love of the universe. Everybody is bound by the universal law and the Akashic records, and even the bad ones. And they're always flitting from person to person, but they'll never get inside of you. Just communicate to the great one and the spirit, the mother spirit, will protect you. And you know. But I think you're lovely, by the way, Sandy.
She said thank you.
I forgot I wasn't muted. Thank you.
Any other questions from the field, Tara, before we wrap this up?
Yeah, there's a couple here. We could probably power through these. So, one question is, what is your takeaway for us not to repeat the fall of Atlantis as we ascended through this paradigm shift?
Find a high vibration and stay there. You know what your meter is, so you know the difference between a low vibration and a high one. I promise you, the thing that's going to matter most when this shift takes place is your vibratory level. Pay attention to everything that goes into that, and don't think that you're being selfish tending to your own flame right now. You'll benefit everybody else when you figure out there's more light that is trying to get into you. We're in a position to receive higher frequencies of light that's coming at us right now. And if we're not paying attention to it, we're missing out on an opportunity that, man, I don't know if you get another one. So when you, yeah, I could ramble on. I don't want to do that. So pay attention to your vibration. That's all I can tell you.
Like you said in your video, Lowell, you might miss the boat to New Earth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good advice. Good advice. Okay, this is more of a comment. It's interesting to see more and more in one's peripheral mists, movement, energies more and more as the thickness of the veil deconstructs.
Bingo.
I love to hear people report that. Good for you. It's not. Look, it's indications that your level of vibration is rising, and you are seeing it to a degree that you can report on it. Thank you. We all want to hear that because it's happening with us. Yes. The veil is getting thinner, and you're starting
Big
to
time.
see things in higher dimensions that not everybody else sees because they're not paying attention to it.
Right. Yeah.
No,
You're not crazy.
I love to hear it. Whoever made that comment, thank you for
No.
doing that. It's just more validation for us.
One of our favorites, EP Pet, who's a channel favorite.
Aww.
Yeah. My cat, however, does see everything, by the way. Like the cats are just, they're tuned in. Okay, so this is a last one, and I think this is a good one for us to end on. I feel like, Lowell, this is right up your alley. This is a little deep, but is it not normal to feel like you don't come from here or belong here?
That sense has been in my field now for like the last 10 or 14 days, and I don't know why. So the fact that somebody else brought it up, you can see the collective is reacting to something beyond me and beyond them, because why would that idea be presented to us and not just me? I've been focusing on that same idea for the past several days, and I didn't know how it got there in the first place. Well,
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
All I can tell you from that is we are all coming to a vibratory level that we get it, and that we are from somewhere else. That whole idea that I kind of alluded to because I had seen it in a recent YouTube video about people that there are chosen ones that have been picked to have these multidimensional experiences right now. I'm not shying away from it anymore. I don't brag about it, and I don't put it out there to be any more than I am, but I can't deny I've had them. And so has Dave, and so has Terry, so has Tara, so has Sandy, so has everybody that's here in this room. You're here because you've had these experiences. You need to share them somewhere else because it's on the upswing, boys and girls. Earth's vibration is changing into a realm that's going to be higher than the one that we're currently in. And these modifications that are taking place with us humans are helping us adapt to where we're going. There. I think I'm done.
Dave, do you have any final thoughts you want to leave us with before we wrap up?
Just that it was lovely to be here with everybody. Tara, you're a lovely host, and I'm sure that if your community wants me back sometime, I have a lot of information about interstellar travel, interstellar conveyances, and conversations, and mathematic programs and technology, things that they are hopeful will benefit us. And myself and many others who have had direct contact and have left the planet are all saying this exact same thing: as we have a lot of gifts. They've been giving us a lot of tools, and we're here to help. I'm not necessarily a healer, but I am a translator, and I've been able to translate their urgent message so that we can all feel some common sense of why we're being visited. And the last thing I like to say is the mass landing's been going on for the last 25, 30 years, and it's happening everywhere all the time. There was 40 ships in South Africa. There was 14 in Argentina. There was 22 in West Germany, 50 in the UK over the last 2 months, all sighted by people that are like you and me, and young people, old people, first timers, experiencers, first timers. They're here now. They're not going away. And the powers that be are just making it hard for us to find the information about the sightings in South Africa, Germany, and the UK, but they're everywhere. And all you got to do, folks, is if you want to see a ship and they are pretty, just go out in your backyard and look up at the stars and say hello and tell them how much you love life, because life is a precious, precious gift.
Well, I'm actually going to go do that tonight, and I will
Cool.
report back and let you know if I have any experiences. So I'm excited to
Excellent.
give this a try. So I just want to say thank you both. Thank you, Lowell, and thank you, Dave, so much for spending time with us and answering questions. And Lowell, I think we've kind of taken up enough of your time, and we're going to let you kind of go off into the into the sunset and do what you need to do. And Dave, if I can convince you to come back and be a guest, I would love that. If anyone wants to hear Dave's story, put that comment in the chat, and let's try and get him on for an interview, and we can hear his whole story as well. So
I want to hear Dave.
Bless
we all want to hear Dave's story.
bless your heart. There's no convincing necessary. I mean, if there's anything that is most important for me, it's to help everyone, and just to remember that everything will be okay, and just to keep holding up your end of the field. And for all the members of your community who are already in contact, they know it, and they're so proud of you. And just keep up the good work, because we can't do this alone. Remember, it's us under the yoke. We'll make the changes to protect Mother Earth and our children's futures. And we know that we need help, and they're providing it. So everything will be fine. They're working miracles just like you guys. Bless all of you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely. And Terry and Sandy, thank you guys for being here. We appreciate you. And thank you all, everyone in the chat. Thank you so much. I hope you all have a wonderful evening. And